Hey everyone, Nathan Hayes here, IDOC's practice finance consultant, and just want to run through quickly a business disruption calculator we put together. I know there's a ton of uncertainty right now with how long am I have to be closed, or how long are we going to be emergency only? What do I do with my staff? So I just want to share this with you as a way that you can, to say it's quick and dirty might be an overstatement, but it is kind of quick and dirty. Just get a good sense of where you'll be. I think with all that different organizations are doing to defer payments and such, this will be 80 to 90% right. But I think it's going to be enough to get you going on doing some planning. So let me share it with you and walk you through what we've put together here. So what you're going to do is just take last year's financial results, so 2019, either from your P&L out of QuickBooks or off your tax return, and just drop in a couple of fields to get a baseline of sort of average monthly, weekly expenses. So example practice we have here, $1 million practice, $280,000 in cost of goods, $210,000 in non-OD staff payroll. Don't get caught up on the ratios there. Most practices will spend about 50% of their revenues on cost of goods and their non-OD staff. And then skipping down, owners, if you're either in the payroll number on your P&L or if you're line itemed out, put your salary in here. This is not your draws that you take monthly, but booked salary on there. It also, if you're an S Corp or an LLC, usually this is split out on your tax return, again, if that's ready on the business tax return. And if you have an associate doctor and they're separated out on the payroll, or you can put them here. If they're not, you can just leave them with the non-OD staff. But I think owners, it's worth breaking out your own salary. It's just to know what the cash flow needs are of the business, since when it's making money, that's your money. When it's not making money, that's your expense. And so take the bottom line net income, and just to make it easy, we're splitting out depreciation, amortization. Those are non-cash expenses that the practice doesn't spend money on. It's just a way to reflect the depletion of your new OCT from last year. Include the interest in your net income, and then we'll calculate that elsewhere. We could say take all your monthly notes and just sum them up and multiply by 12 for an annual debt service number. So this is definitionally when you're paying back notes, interest and principal on those payments. And so here's an owner that when you sum up the owner's salary, the net income of the business, the depreciation, and then back out the debt service, is taking out about $200,000 a year pre-tax on this. And then we'll automatically calculate a monthly baseline. I know it goes up and down every month. A weekly baseline, if you're curious, that's divided by 30 days, multiplied by 7 for a week. So a little less than a quarter of a month. And then we can come over and play with some assumptions on what's going to happen. So for instance, we could say with drop into emergency cases, we're going to, our revenues, we think they're going to be down for 70% for the foreseeable future. And that's going to push through, and just note that cost of goods is going to fall with those. And again, it's quick and dirty. If you're only seeing emergencies, there's probably not a ton of glasses involved with that, but just for planning purposes, we'll let that push through. And some of you are just going to limited hours and testing people before they come in. And others of you are having to decide, hey, do I furlough my staff? And so we could say, we're going to cut, 3/4 of our staff and put them on furlough and just keep our skeleton crew for the moment. And that'll push through as well. So now we're looking at a $25,000 a month practice from $83,000. Cost of goods is lower, staff is lower. We're going to let the fixed expenses, so things like your rent and occupancy costs, your equipment costs in terms of service fees, marketing's probably going to go to zero right now, although you're probably communicating with your patients quite a lot. Just general overhead, everything from software licenses to toilet paper. We'll let that stay the same just to see what's happening. So it's sort of the operating expense of the business is $35,000 a month. The owner's paying $10,000 of that, and the practice net income is minus 23, but 2,500, so about minus $20,000 a month. But the cash flow, because the owner's salary is in that number, is really about $12,000 a month. So this is a pretty disrupted practice, but if we're only losing $12,000 a month, then I think most practices could bear that for a little bit. cash will be tight, but with the available credit it is. And you can go ahead and put in $100,000 and just know, hey, if we shut it down and furlough 3/4 of our staff, that's a $30,000 a month, net cash flow. And of course you could say, well, we'll furlough our associate too, and that takes some of the burden off. But that's just an example of how you can play with this as we're going through things. Even to say, hey, we're shutting it down completely, and the carry is going to be $20,000 a month. Given available credit, I think this should be a comfort to many of you, since I think our average practice is maybe a little bigger than $1 million in IDOC. $20,000 a month is nothing to sneeze at, and I don't want to minimize it. But with the line of credit that we're hearing is available, with hopefully some federal support, this should be doable for a couple of weeks to even a couple of months if we get there. So if you have questions, want to bounce ideas off of us, I'm very available to talk with you about options on this. Our HR team is working overtime right now, helping practices assess, hey, what's the right decision for our staff? How do we do it in a way that honors them? How do we do it above board legally, if we're going to furlough or not? So we're all available to talk to you and help you in this time, and we're watching it very closely. So I hope this helps. Again, this is Nathan Hayes with IDOC, and my two pieces of encouragement would be one, advice. Get as much cash as you can, save as much cash, get a line of credit if you need it, get a working capital loan from the bank, get loaded to bear and go fully defensive in your practice. Having said that, we just don't know what is going to happen past the next 7 to 14 days in policymakers' mind on how to respond to coronavirus. So be patient as best you can, and then be decisive with your staffs and just let them know. They're hearing about their friends getting laid off. So let them know what's happening and let them know you're thinking very aggressively. And this tool can help you assess what your options are. So I will sign off. That's IDOC's Business Disruption Calculator. Hope it helps. And again, we're all here for you as you need us. Thanks so much.